most interactive sports talk show in Houston, which hosted the national championship of college football last night. A game that was, I still think, largely one-sided, even though there was a moment in this game, about a quarter and a half, where it did look like Washington, at the very least, Sean Mapes, had opportunities to pull even in it.
Yeah, that's how I would put it, is that starting in like the second quarter, once Michigan went up 14, or yeah, was it 14?
It was 14-3.
Yeah, they went up 14-3.
They were averaging 19 yards a carry at that point in the game.
Yeah, or I think wasn't it 17-3 at some point? Because they got it. Washington got to 7 at halftime.
Correct. It was 17-3. It was right after, because Washington went 3 and out right after Michigan went up 14-3, and they, I guess, what happened? Oh yeah, there was a big Blake Corum run, which was when they were averaging 19 yards a carry, a 59-yard run by Blake Corum, and then they stopped there. So they were up 17-3.
It just felt like Washington for the entire third quarter, and Michigan too. They're both like, both teams needed a big play. And obviously that benefited Michigan because they were winning the game. They already had gotten enough big plays. But for Washington, it just felt like they needed the big connection to Odunze or McMillan or Polk. And like they just could not get it. They did get one that got called back on a hold, but that entire third quarter was just them punting back and forth.
It was almost like the law of averages catching up with them because of all the ridiculous plays that they had against Texas. Could you do that in a game at the same level for the second straight week? Because Penix in that game was awesome, but some of the stuff that happened, like the touchdown pass he threw that was tipped, was flukish.
Yes.
Not all of it, but some of it.
Yeah, some of it. And some of it was just like super tight windows, super like contested catches. But they were missing the layups last night. They were. The one to Odunze where Odunze should have caught it, but also it should have been a better throw and it would have been a touchdown.
There were a couple of those.
In, I want to say, the first or second quarter. Penix was not as good as he was last Monday on New Year's, but I do think that he didn't need to be that good to win this game. This game was kind of in the balance. He just needed to tap into it for like the second half, or even for half their drives in the second half, and they would have at least made J.J. McCarthy sweat, and they would have made Michigan sweat, because McCarthy also did not play well.
No, he didn't. They had an opportunity, lots of drops, misfires by Penix, and I like Michael Penix. I hope that the Patriots draft him with the 3rd overall pick.
Whew.
Probably a reach.
You could probably trade down. I'll tell you. You could probably trade down and get him.
It's quarterbacks.
I think Daniels from LSU would go 3rd.
Okay. Well, look, no idea. I'm not one of the draft people.
I just saw that Kuiper had him go, the quarterbacks going 1, 2, 3 with Williams, May, and Daniels, and he had Penix, I think, 10th on his big board.
Okay. Look, I'll just be honest here. I like a quarterback who plays at a high level in the college football playoff. And yeah, that definitely makes me a college football basic. I'll totally admit that. I'm not watching these guys week in, week out. I will say this, though. Aren't you thankful that the Texans did not punt on drafting a quarterback after not getting the 1st overall pick? Aren't you glad? I mean, there was a small faction of Texans fans, and I would say some Texans media, who believed that the Texans should just wait until this year's draft so that they could get Caleb Williams, whose stock has really, through no fault of his own, gone down a little bit because we've seen more of him, and we could only possibly be disappointed by what he did this past season.
He didn't win the Heisman again, so we're a little bit lower on him. He's still the odds on to go number 1, I think.
Exactly.
But yeah, we just the expectation, like we're talking with DJ, it's all about expectations, and the expectations were at the roof for Caleb.
Yeah, they were. And look, the expectations were through the roof for Penix in last night's game, and I'm just thankful that the Texans went the direction that they did, even though that was probably not their intention come draft time. I think everyone is of the same belief that if the Texans had the first overall pick, they would have taken Bryce Young. And I think everybody would have agreed with Bryce Young as the pick. And I think there would still be a lot of excuses being made for Bryce Young if Young was the first pick and playing here for the Texans. Since we're on the outside looking in, it's a lot easier for us to say, doesn't look like it's going to work out for him in Carolina. And obviously there's still plenty of time, but that has been a bad year. And you really haven't noticed the special things that Young was able to do at the college level. And with Stroud, I mean, it's like it's just so clear, like night and day between those two about like who's the better guy. And I'm just thankful today after watching last night's game where Penix comes back down to earth that they get a guy who last year had probably the best quarterback performance in the college football playoff, as opposed to this year, the guy with the best performance.
Yeah, I mean, how good CJ was against Georgia, especially against like that Georgia team that we saw that year, we saw in the next game that they played against TCU, we saw all the year before. It's just like a defense that just was crushing guys. We're crushing quarterbacks all throughout the year. And for CJ to play how he did, give his team a chance, a kick to win it at the buzzer. And obviously the college kicker missed it 55 yards to the left.
Right.
But the fact that he did that, like that's better than anyone else played last year. That's better than anyone else played this year.
Yeah, I mean,
you might have to go back to like a Tua or a Joe Burrow playoff performance to get to one that's as good as what we saw CJ do last year.
Am I overstating it by saying that Michigan's defense, based off of last night against Washington, is significantly better than that of Texas? Because I think we liked what Texas' defense has to offer, especially up the middle.
They're more complete, is what I would say. They have more game changers at different positions.
Second level, especially. Like, they have some good corners.
Sandra Still, I think is his name. He was awesome. They have another cornerback, Howard, that's really good. And then, so they're less, yes, like you're saying, their tackles probably aren't as good as Texas, but their ends are a little bit better. Linebackers, kind of a wash. But really, it's the defensive backfield where they have some guys that Texas doesn't.
And clearly, Penix had a tough time. You could also blame his offensive line for that if you want. So I come out of last night just thankful that the Houston Texans have CJ Stroud. I think we all should be. It is a crapshoot. And I get some people looking at Caleb Williams and saying, well, this is the next can't miss prospect. But just whenever these are learning exercises going forward. And I encourage people to try to avoid the hot take stuff when it comes to the quarterback discussions. We all have them. We all think we know what we're talking about. We almost always do not.
Yeah. Like even the people that spend their life doing that. I mean,
exactly.
I mentioned Mel Kiper. Mel Kiper said he would retire if Jimmy Clausen didn't work out in the NFL.
He never did retire.
He never did retire. So maybe that means Jimmy Clausen worked out. No, we all know Jimmy Clausen did not work out. And so for a guy like him to stand on the table for someone, and he misses guys every year because this is hard. That's why.
I am just someone who hates the draft industrial complex. And look, people make a living off of it. And there are some people who love football so much that they want to be a part of every single step of that process. And if that's what you want to do, like, all the power in the world to you. All I'm saying is that we always think we know the quarterback every single year. And if at this point you haven't learned that you probably don't, and that it's largely wasted energy, you're probably never going to learn it. And, we'll see what happens with Caleb Williams in the pros. I'll be honest, not that optimistic after this past season. It's probably because I'm a bit of a prisoner of the moment. And there are some weird moments with Williams that have nothing to do with him on the field, like the crying, which we shouldn't be dumping on him but we do.
Which is crazy because, like,
it's an authentic moment.
You know who I'm pretty sure cried last night? Michael Penix.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure he cried.
The man was crawling back into the tunnel. He was so hurt.
Bo Nix cried after the Pac-12 title game. Like, a lot of these guys cry.
But there's that. There's his dad involvement. There's a bunch of stuff that has nothing to do with him as a player that is a turnoff. But I don't know if Williams is going to be good or bad. I don't. I've stopped acting like I know what a quarterback will be. I like Michael Penix still, despite last night's performance. And yeah, of all the guys, because I've watched him play, he seems like he's tough and can make some damn good throws. I would love my Patriots to take him. But for all I know, Jaden Daniels is the guy. Or that guy from North Carolina is the guy, Drake May. I'll be honest, I'm sort of dubious on the guy that doesn't make it to the college football playoff being drafted ever, especially after Mitchell Trubisky. But hey, that's just me. No one knows a damn thing. And you can speak with your chest on all of these quarterbacks if you want. All I will say is, if you just go into the draft and hope for the best and end up with the best, you're going to save yourself a lot of anguish. And there was so much of that over the course of the past calendar year because the Texans won the last game of the season and supposedly missed out on the can't-miss quarterback prospect in this year's draft class who is literally my sized. Maybe we should have paid more attention to that, actually.
Yeah, I do think that that's a lesson we can learn.
Yeah.
Is when guys are a massive outliers, and when I say massive outliers, I don't mean like their size is massive. I mean that size of their outlierness is massive.
Right.
Like, yeah.
With the weight and height,
the weight and
Young
height
versus even Kyler Murray, who Murray's ridiculously fast.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what it is with Murray, is that Kyler Murray is like a top 1% NFL athlete.
Exactly.
Where like Bryce isn't quite that.